Are you a PTO or PTA leader and you're wondering what you should be taking care of during the summer to really set yourself up for success come the new school year? That is exactly what we're going to be talking about in today's video. I have some specific action steps for you to take and some recommendations. And I know you might be thinking, it is summertime. I just want to take the summer off and relax. But the awesome thing about doing this work in the summer is that you're kind of free of other obligations. Unless your kiddo is going to year-round school, you don't have the worries about what to pack for lunch, all of the jazz that comes with school and all the obligations of the schedule that just never quite lets up. You don't really have those issues during the summer. I've always found that I am just able to get a lot more done in the summer and do it in a more casual, non-stressful way so that I can really get some things off of my plate and so that I am going into the new school year really feeling prepared with a plan that I just have to make happen rather than trying to create and execute at the same time, because it's really, really difficult to do that. All right, so what are some things that you should be taking care of during the summer? What we're going to be talking about in today's video isn't just about like what one specific volunteer or leader should be doing. It's actually a whole bunch of different roles. So these are more things that you collectively as the PTO and specifically you as PTO president should be kind of monitoring and making sure that it's on the docket to get done. Some of the stuff can spill over into the school year, but it's really easier if you do it during the summer for a couple different reasons. All right. The first thing, you're going to just have to get nerdy. And if you have not taken a look at your group's bylaws and standing rules, the summertime is a great time to do that because, again, you can think about the whole school year more globally and think about what worked in the last year, what didn't work. A lot of those things that didn't work sometimes are caused by miscommunications or not understanding the procedure or the resources that are available. So if you document those things in the bylaws and standing rules, that's what those documents are for. So it's probably going to be more so that you're working on the standing rules because bylaws, of course, are more global understanding, description of your group and how it operates and kind of the why, and the standing rules are the how. So they get really into the very specifics of how things should be done. So you're going to want to take a look at those. Again, they need to be, I would look at them every year just to make sure everything is what you need to be doing as a group. And if you find that you're not ever consulting the bylaws and standing rules, that means that you have a really crappy set that is not serving you well. Like they should be living, breathing documents that you are looking at on the regular and really guiding your actions, helping support your decision-making process. Totally should be doing that. So if you find that yours are, you don't either, one, don't have bylaws or standing rules, you need some, like this is not even negotiable. You will find that you will have a much more healthy group when you have these documents to rely upon. I know that this is the bane of so many people's existence because the thought of it is just very overwhelming. And what's worse, a lot of bylaws and standing rules are written in super complicated English that is hard to understand. And I think that is because people think that, oh, if it's like really difficult to understand, if it's like using fancy words, then it must be more official. Well, I'm a recovering attorney. And so I kind of make it my mission when I join a nonprofit organization or any organization that I'm involved with, really, that has bylaws and standing rules. I usually end up on the committee to kind of overhaul them. And I always put them into simple language that everyone can understand because that is the whole point. If they're not approachable and accessible, then you're not going to use them, which totally defeats the purpose of the documents themselves. So anyway, I totally have a kit that will help you through the entire process of either creating these documents for the very first time or updating and amending them. Like it is a step-by-step process all laid out for you. There is an extensive template that you can use to pull in what you would like into your group. Sometimes you need some guidance. And so that is all wrapped up in the bylaws and standing rules made simple. One of the other reasons that it is so great to take care of this task over the summer, and you're not going to be able to totally finish the process because of course you're going to have to vote, your membership is going to have to vote on it, but you can like tee it up so that it gets approved and presented in the right way in the fall so that it is done by like your October meeting or November meeting. And so that way it can help you for the whole rest of the school year. If you're waiting to do it in the latter part of the year, then it's just going to mean that the changes won't really take effect for your group until they're voted on. When you are looking at your bylaws and standing rules, one thing to take a look at are all of the job descriptions for your volunteer roles, your leadership roles, really. Are they what your group needs? Have the needs of your group changed? Have you gotten a whole bunch of volunteers and so you have created new programs or new projects that kind of need a specific leader? President really should look at like what is on their plate and see what they can get off of their plate and onto somebody else's in the form of a new volunteer taking on the leadership position. Maybe your group has contracted. Maybe there are less helpers. And so you have gotten rid of some programs out of necessity. Like this totally happened with my group at the lower elementary school because schools merged. And so for a while there, we had like 3 times as many PTO volunteers because 3 schools came together. And so the group really expanded and started like a school garden and all sorts of different things. But then by the time that my kids were wrapping up, all of those kids who had been through the merge, they were in the upper level schools. And so their parents had moved on too. And so there were less helpers available. And so we kind of had to cut back and kind of just come back down and, like I said, contract a little bit and get rid of things that we were no longer able to support, or maybe were no longer the passion of the particular volunteers and leaders. Just make sure that your leaders in your leadership positions match your group's needs. The next thing that your group kind of globally needs is a communication plan, because this can be the downfall of groups. Like, it doesn't matter how many fantastic things you're doing for the school if nobody knows about it outside of the main PTO members, or even outside of the people who even show up to the PTO meetings. Because of course, there usually is a difference, right? Usually you have more members, more helpers than will actually show up to meetings. So you need to have a plan on how you're going to reach everybody. Set up a way to communicate with them outside of the school. I have another video about how the need for setting up your own methods of communication. In the past, my PTO had relied on the school to send everything out. Well, their emails were getting marked as spam and getting directly delivered into the spam box, even though, like me personally, I had hit the not spam, not spam, not spam, not spam button about a gajillion times, and it didn't matter. Anything that went out from the school was automatically ending up in the junk folder and being segregated out. And because I always check all of my folders because I know that things are routinely routed to spam that are not spam, I know to check there. But the vast majority of parents, like, do you check your spam folder? Totally should, but you probably don't. So, because most people don't. Our community was really missing out on the PTO events and programs, and they were not getting the notices because we were relying on the school to do it because it always had worked. But things work until they just don't. That's kind of how it works. So have a plan to reach people. It could be email. It could be a Facebook page. It could be a Facebook group. Just get those lines of communications kind of settled and get a volunteer who could maybe be your communications chair, because that is a whole nother separate ball of wax. I found when I was president, and it usually fell to me. And I was like, this is more like, it's enough to kind of coordinate everything. And it was really helpful when we did get a communications chair, because that was their only job. And so it just made it a lot easier. So the next thing you want to get clear on, and this also is related to the bylaws and standing rules, but get clear on your procedures for things. Get clear on what forms you're going to be using. Forms are a beautiful thing, my friend, because they can just really document the process for things. If your group does not have a process for making check requests, like a formal process, I would recommend getting one so that your treasurer is not chasing down receipts, is not chasing down the information that they're going to need, not only for their own reports to accurately put things in the right categories, but also that your group won't run into issues with getting things flagged on the annual audit. The summertime is a great way to kind of figure out what you're going to be doing and then figure out how you're going to implement those procedures and forms. If you are like wondering, like, Christina, what forms and procedures could you possibly be talking about? I totally have you covered on this space as well. So I have all sorts of forms, procedures, and processes kind of documented in the various officer success kits. The very first one I put together was, of course, the President Success Kit. So that has a ton of helpful information for you. The other resource that has the second most amount of procedures, actually, it probably has more of the forms and documents and procedures laid out, is the Treasurer Success Kit, because there's just more involved with that position. And so the president and treasurer, I figured the president would be kind of spearheading putting all these things in place. So definitely go check out those resources if you are interested in making your life a heck of a lot easier and not having to figure out the procedures that you need. Like, that's all been figured out for you. The next thing you probably want to consider implementing for the upcoming school year is a mentoring program. And that is not for kids. It is for adult volunteers to be mentoring upcoming volunteers. A lot of times people are having issues and they're like, oh, I can't possibly be a leader because I don't know enough. And there's like a self-confidence issue. And so I found that if you are really mentoring younger or less experienced volunteers, then you can help them really grow and blossom into the leaders that they're capable of being. It is really lovely when someone else recognizes this about you. And so that it's not coming from you. Like, it really can be a confidence booster. I really have no problems with confidence just because I'm almost always pretty confident. But I still remember before I got involved as president, I had a friend who was a new friend. She leaned over to me at one of the meetings. She's like, you could totally be president here. Like, you should do that. And I was like, oh, Rhonda, that's so sweet. And so that kind of helped me make a decision. I was like, well, if other people are seeing it in me, I was a very new parent. I totally shared my story with how I got involved with the PTO a couple times, but the short and the long of it is I was a brand new kindergarten parent at the end of my kid's first year. And then the next year I was PTA president. So even though I didn't really have much experience with the group, even though I had a baby at home and had missed like half of the meetings, it did not matter. I stepped up and led and had a very, very successful 2-year term. So much so that the principal was begging me to stay on. Actually, the next tip is to get organized over the summer. So you want to have a place for your digital records to go, digital files to go. I'm always talking about getting organized, because if you don't know the resources that you have, or you don't have them right at your fingertips, then you're not going to be able to use them, which means that you're going to have to recreate things from the wheel. And I hate wasting time like that. It's like one of my biggest irritants. If something already exists out there, why don't just like use it and improve upon it? So if you are planning a special person's breakfast and you've done it for the last couple of years, it takes 5 minutes to update the flyer from last year versus at least a half an hour to create a brand new flyer, right? So you have enough on your plate. So figure out what you can kind of replicate, what you can duplicate and update and modify for your current uses. So you do that by establishing a group Google Drive if you don't already have one. And if you have one, go in there and make sure it's organized, because sometimes people just don't have the best organizational skills and they'll just throw things in the files and they're named all funky. So feel free to rename things, put things in folder, and really make it clear what's what and how to find things. The next thing I would really recommend doing over the summer is getting your plans in place for both fundraising as well as membership and bringing in new parents to get involved. I think you need to have a plan for both of those things, because especially fundraising, like, you got to know what you're doing before you do it. And most fundraising companies, if you're going to be doing like a traditional product fundraising company, you're going to need to get those things lined up in advance so that they can make sure they have you on the schedule, they have a fundraising rep assigned to you, and that they have the capacity to help you. For membership, you're going to want to come up with a plan to welcome in new families as well as new members, because everyone's a new member every year. Get them like onboarded, get them involved. Like, you need to have a plan more so than just paying their membership dues or coming to the school. You really need to have a plan for how you're going to incorporate them, how you're going to welcome them in and get them involved. If you don't, then you're losing out on a huge opportunity. Again, I have another resource for that. If you check out the Parent Involvement Success Kit, it really has everything that you need for a new family welcome packet as well as a membership packet already done for you. There are two different kind of design levels. There's one that's pretty basic, and there's one that's pretty fancy as far as graphics, and it's editable in Canva. So go ahead and check out the link to that in the description below. The last thing that I would encourage you to get a game plan for is the staff appreciation. Like, what are you going to be doing to celebrate the teachers and staff, the custodians, the office secretaries, the ISAs, all the specialists? Like, you should be really acknowledging and celebrating everybody. So figure out your game plan for that. Figure out how you're going to pay for it. If you don't have money in your budget, like if you have a small budget, then now is time to be soliciting donations and getting people in the community on board to support everybody. I really hope that this video has given you so many concrete ideas about what you can do this summer to prepare for the new school year, giving you an action plan that you can step into. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that you will join me for my next one too. Want even more guidance on how to be a stronger leader so you can run a better PTO or PTA? All of these resources and more are waiting for you at PTOanswers.com.